or Lakeside?
This time we're going to hear from
Original lines.
Miss Alexis Schaus,
And then one.
and
then
Leanne
one
Kerr
paragraph last.
from FBS, who are going to share some Renewal Schools financial data with us.
Good afternoon. Alexis Schaus, the Director of School Business. I've been asked to provide the overview of the review that we do for all the renewal schools. Just to give you an idea of the process, I know we have some new people. The Division of School Business they review at least 3 years of financial statement audits. Sometimes the audits are submitted by the auditors of the school to the local government commission, and then there is a deadline, a legislative deadline of October 31st, which obviously was just last week. In the normal procedure is that the local government commission reviews the audit first, and they kind of certify that it is in compliance with all the requirements of the audit, and they look at certain aspects of compliance that is somewhat different than ours. They then approve that audit, and we receive it. Because of the timing of the renewal cycle, we actually request that we give them a list of the renewal schools and to expedite us receiving those renewals so that we can review it and kind of look at the status of the school. Normally, after our process on those audits, just so you kind of get an idea of what school business does, is we perform an audit resolution process, meaning if there are findings in it, we require the school to provide corrective actions. And then we look at, for all charter schools on an annual basis, regardless if they're renewal or if they're as healthy as can be, we do a financial health assessment, and it is kind of a documented process that we have in the financial performance framework. So we do have a document that we have provided for you that also explains some of the items that we look at. In addition to reviewing the financial statements, we also look at the student accounting of that school. We look at whether they are the number of students they have, the trends in the students that they've enrolled, as well as the withdrawal rate. And when we're looking at withdrawal, that is, we look at two items. We look at the number of students you have in month one, which is what the state has funded, compared to the number of students you have at the end of the year. But we also look at the churn of students that have gone through that school during the year. It has proven to be an indicator of the kind of not only the academic success, but also the financial health of that school. We look at also I didn't mention that in the financial statements, auditors sometimes have they designate material weaknesses to those schools, or they might have some other financial concerns for the school. If we've been provided any other items of non-compliance during the year, this might be related to a federal grant that pertains to finance. Those also sometimes trigger non-compliance. And then lastly, we look at other areas of non-compliance which generally come into the failure to report in a timely basis. There is required state reporting, and these come under the Uniform Education Reporting System. It is general statute that states that school districts, charter schools, anyone that's receiving state public school funds is required to provide financial, student accounting data, personnel data. Most of this is on a monthly basis, and so that does, if there is late reporting, then you will see some of these schools have been cited for that. For schools that had one late reporting in 2 years ago, we have not included those. We do give a grace period, and really the purpose when a school is late, and when I say late, we're not talking 1 or 2 days. This is generally significantly late on reporting after many pleas. They are put on a minimum 30-day non-compliance at the cautionary status. Okay, so that is our process. What we have up here is a memo that is literally hot off the press. We got, because of October 31st just being quite recent, we got, I would say about 20 audits late Friday into the weekend. So we have tried to get through those and assess those schools as best we can for this meeting. Leanne, help me with the scrolling the thing.
I'm not, I think Ashley's trying to.
Okay. Thank you.
I can do it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of the memo that we've provided to this group each year. We divide up the schools into various categories. This first category that you see are those schools that we have received their 2018 audit, so they were assessed on 2016, 17, and 18. We do look at 3 years of audits, and we have no financial concerns with these schools at this time. So there is no further action with those schools. The next group of schools are those that we have not received their 2018 financial statements. When I say we, the local government commission has not received them as of today. So for these schools, we're looking at them based on their 2015, 16, and 17 audits. Obviously, when you're looking at 2017, that is the fiscal year that was almost a year and a half ago. So we do not like to assume that everything is fine as of this date. We have seen some schools that have had no compliance issues, have been perfectly healthy, and in 1 year something has happened where they have taken a little bit of a dive. So, but with that being said, there is at this time no comments on those 6 schools that you see there. We would, once we receive those audits, we will do the normal assessments and include those, and hopefully there is nothing to report. So the next group is going to be in a little bit more detail. It is, I'm sorry. So there is a new category that we wanted to kind of bring out because it is not just a comment from myself, but also a comment from the financial environment, that for these charter schools that you see here, they have EMOs and or CMOs, and when we're looking at their financial statements, there really is nothing to look at, and that is because they don't generally have any assets. The agreement with their EMOs is that often the management organization takes the 96% or maybe even more of the revenues and in turn provides all the staffing, the assets, etc. So when you're looking at a financial statement, we here cannot really assess their financial health except to say that they are very reliant on that organization. And so this statement basically states that if there was something that would happen to that organization, these entities would be at risk. And that's all that statement is saying. And actually, a couple of these schools will come up a little bit later. The accounting community is coming up with ways to provide more informative financial statements that would help us ensure that there is some presentation of that risk of the management organization, meaning if the management organization was financially insolvent, that would be disclosed.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Where do you go to try to get a picture of the financial health of an EMO? Like Dun & Bradstreet or?
Well, that would be the auditor's. I mean, for myself, I mean, obviously these are big companies, many of them, not all of them, but they would have to go to and look at their financials, I'm assuming. I'm not sure what the audit procedure would be for that, but that is what they're looking at doing.
I guess I'm just thinking out loud, if the financial health of the school is dependent on the financial health of the EMO, how do you get a handle on that then? How do you know whether Charter Schools USA is okay for us to be doing business with if a number of our 501c3s want to partner with them? I'm just wondering out loud. It's kind of a rhetorical question.
Right. I mean, I think that, I mean, there's, not to answer a rhetorical question, but there would be due diligence, I guess, on when these charters are partnering with these EMOs, CMOs, to ensure that that these entities are solvent.
Thank you, Alexis.
Do we require when a new school wants to partner with an existing EMO or CMO in the state, when they initially come on, we get financials on them. Do we require updated financials when a new school wants to partner with an EMO that's already in existence in the state?
No, we haven't to this point. If it's a new EMO, then we will ask for 3 years of financials. The last time we look at it.
You might want to rethink that.
Okay, so looking at this next group, this group is various schools that have. We do not have the financial statements. We do. Okay, excuse me. That we have received the 2018 audited financial statements, and we have reviewed them, and they either have current or previous financial non-compliance issues. The first school on here is Carter Community. This school has been in operation since 1998, and we have not had any, it has no history of financial non-compliance. It has been in good standing. However, since 2015, so in the last couple years, we've seen just kind of signs of the financial health slipping with the school. This may be temporary. I know they've put in some capital into the school. However, it does bear noting. So in 2015, the school had an average daily membership of 297. It did drop down to 244, and it is currently at 255. So there has been a drop in the average daily membership. The school in 2015 had an unassigned fund balance, governmental fund balance, about 9%, which is really what we want to see. That's just over one month of expenditures. And at the end of 2018, it ended with a deficit of 88,000. So it went from 269,000 to a negative 88,000 in that time period. There has been, as I stated, capital expenditures made by the school, I believe both in their transportation area as well as in their facilities. Based on their financial statements ending in 2017, so this was last year, we did put the school on a cautionary status for signs of financial weakness. It had a very small unassigned governmental fund balance deficit. It was just under $21,000, and there was a low fund balance in their governmental fund and of about $3,000. So we put them on a cautionary status for that year, hoping that we would see improvement in 2018. We did receive their financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018, and there has been a weakening of their financial health that was shown in those statements. So the Unassigned governmental fund balance went from a negative 21,000 to a negative 88,000, and the governmental fund balance went from a positive 3,000 to a negative 57,000. So we have elevated them, which is a normal course of our practice. We have elevated them to a probationary status from that cautionary, based on the fact that this is their second year.
What is a governmental fund balance? What is that?
So in in the financial statements, how am I going to explain this easily? Huh? Yeah. So when you're looking at your financial statements, there is on Exhibit 3. You'll see that there is a. Is it on 3? It's not on 3. It is. No, I'm not. I was going to try and tie the numbers for you. Excuse me. So that I could explain exactly which numbers were included or not. See the. Shoot, it's the wrong school. Excuse me. If I can get that, I don't have the numbers
That's
right
I
now.
just was looking for a definition, not necessarily just what is that?
Well, with the unassigned, when we're looking at the unassigned, it's really, that's the one that we really look at, because it is that the fund balance that is available for the board to allocate.
Okay.
So can I ask you another question? On the short-term operating loans, so when you're talking about the deficit, are you using the cash basis statements or the accrual, modified accrual statement?
We're using their statements, which is.
So it's
the-
exhibit.
When you
4
said the
of-
short, did you say the short term?
Yeah, there's a short-term operating loan, and I.
There
just-
is.
So is that part of the deficit that you're talking about here? When you talk about the deficit, are you looking at the modified accrual?
It is
statements
modified
or the-
accrual,
okay.
yes. There is a material weakness in their audit based on, due to the negative fund balance, which would be a normal correlation. I do want to state that there is also a management response in the audit that talks to what the corrective action plan is for the school. The school intends, starting on November 15th, to start up a capital campaign. The board members have contributed $20,000 to start up that campaign, and the hope is to generate $250,000 by the end of that campaign. In addition, the executive director has forfeited the salary for that year and is going to focus solely on that capital campaign. So there is an awareness of the board and the administration on the need to get the school back in good standing where it had been before. The next school, actually the next two schools go really together. They are two schools that have an EMO, and they both had a negative fund balance of a very small amount at the end of the fiscal year. Even though these schools are supported wholly by the management company, it is our practice, regardless of the school, that if there is a negative fund balance in the financial statements, it is an automatic non-compliance, in this case, a cautionary status. Both those deficits have been resolved as of June 30th, 2018, so they will be taken off non-compliance.
Was a chink in the armor. Finally found something wrong with Greensboro Academy. Took a long
About
look.
Greensboro Academy a little bit.
They had to search high and low to find something, didn't
It's about time that charter was revoked.
The next two schools also go together. They are under the same organization, although independent charter schools, Commonwealth High and Stewart Creek. These are just noted because, as I stated before, we look at student accounting. And these schools, they do have different nature, as you're probably aware, of their academic program, but they have a very high withdrawal rate. And again, without bias, we disclose all issues with the same kind of criteria. So these two schools are listed due to their high churn of students going through them.
Alexis, those are just items of concern, though. They're not on any compliance status, though, right?
That is correct. They are not. There is no. They are not under any. They are not in any non-compliance.
Doesn't shock me that dropout students
Or dropping
dropping out again. Yeah, I mean, I can. Right.
Does it mean they're
Thank you.
dropping out though, or does it mean they're going back to their regular school because now they're doing better? If I have some optimism.
So when I looked at the data, it did not appear. I can't state that they dropped out. I could not state that they also were going to another academic institution. Lakeside Charter, which opened in 2014, was previously Thunderbird. This has had financial compliance concerns really since the inception. And I've kind of identified them into different areas. The first relates to their financials. They've had a significant decrease in their average daily membership. You can see there that in 2016 they had almost 500 students, and in 2019 they have 94. I think actually they're funded maybe more at 90. They have two grades, with one having 3 students in it, another grade having 5 students in it. Obviously, with the decrease in the average daily membership comes a decrease in the revenues, and this has had a significant impact on their financials. You can see here the list of non-compliance issues. The top 5 are related to failure to report. These have since been resolved, but we had quite a spate there, including when it says dual, cautionary dual. That means they were on cautionary for a failure to report on one item, and then they doubled up with failure to report on a different item. So in those cases, we don't raise it to probationary. We just kind of keep tally on the number of late reporting. The financial concerns started with the 2015 audit. There was each year there is a notice of going concern. And this is for each 2015, 16, and 17. And I should have stated before that this next group of schools, we do not have their financial statements right now. So we have not received them through LGC, and LGC has not received them. You can see there kind of the issues that we have had, or the school has had, for each year, and we just continue to put them on keep them on disciplinary financial non-compliance. They receive their allocations in an allotment, a monthly allotment, and it's pretty self-explanatory when you look at the information. I do want to point out that they actually currently are not paying their lease payments. It is in 2017. It was over $500,000 that they were not paying, and I believe that they are still in that. In 2018, I do not believe that they were making their lease payments.
They're up for renewal? These schools are all renewal schools, right?
This one is. Yeah, this one we'll see today.
Bless you.
KIPP Halifax, they are not on this list because of financial issues per se, but more of prior financial non-compliance due to failure to report. And you can see there that they've had a number of non-compliance related to not reporting in a timely manner, including back in 2017, where they did not respond to a fiscal monitoring report and were put on that mandatory 30-day non-compliance. And after that point, they continued not to report, and so we do elevate at that point to a probationary status. They are not currently on financial non-compliance. Charlotte Learning Academy. So for this school, again, we have not received their 2018 financial statements. They were on financial non-compliance and actually had a going concern in their audit in 2015, but we can't take that off because we don't have the 2018. So they have had no financial issues. You can see 2 failure to report or late, those were financial non-compliance. My apologies. They are clean with regards to financial reporting, but they have not had any issues since that 2015 year. And we do hope that once we get that 2018 audit, we can remove them. Do you
know how many students they currently have enrolled?
They have.
Was their day 2065 this past
Excuse
year?
me?
Was their day 20 for 2018, was that the 65?
We do have, I actually have it here. So in 2019, they have 265 students. Last year, they had 273.
Okay. I guess, so with 65 students, that's the number that withdrew?
That's the number that
Correct.
withdrew.
Okay. I saw, I'm sorry. I read
that's
that and
fine.
I thought they had a lot more students than that. So, okay. I just read it wrong. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not sure that's perhaps very clear. We should modify that language on the memo. Yes, out of their 270 students, or so, 60 or so withdrew during the year. Generally, if there is a withdrawal rate above 10%, we look at it. The Pioneer Springs Academy, they are not on non-compliance, financial non-compliance, and we have not had any concerns except for the one failure to report. But I did put this on here because they are a school that is growing slowly and steadily. It appears from their financial records that they are building slowly and steadily. However, they have almost no cash and almost no fund balance. So although they have not been in a negative, if something were to happen, there could be, they do not have a safety net. So I felt it was my obligation just to put them on this list, even though there is no financial non-compliance specifically. And then the last school is Wayne Prep Academy. We have not received their 2018 audit, so we are looking at their 2015, 16, and 17. In the 2015 audit, they had significant issues, but since that time, the school has been financially compliant, and we do not see any significant issues. But as I stated, this was a year and a half ago, was our last report. So, and from what I understand, the audit is not complete at this time. If the chair would like to have any questions.
So this is the first, I guess, the least damaging tag would be cautionary, correct?
That's correct. So
Disciplinary.
no. So the board policy is the lowest level is, well, we technically have kind of a watch, but the lowest level in the board policy is cautionary status. That's generally when you see that is going to be failure to report timely or a small negative fund balance. The next is probationary, and then the third is disciplinary. Or I should say the highest level.
Any other questions or comments? This is really helpful. Thank you for the overview.
We were gonna ask
Alex, might be good just to review the one that talked to.
Anybody remember?
I think it was the,
Submitted their audits on time, like Wayne. I tried to circle
The
them
note on
along.
the
Did you list all those?
Yeah, can we, out of the people that the groups that we're talking to today, Wayne did not submit their audits yet, is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Lakeside.
Lakeside? Is that correct?
So it's the 6 schools that you see there, which is South Brunswick, American Renaissance, Riley Charter, Quest, Hope, and Hallowell-Saponi. And then related to the other groupings that we've had prior, those ones have had no prior concerns, but the ones that have had something in the past is Lakeside, 61J, KIPP Halifax, Charlotte Learning.
Okay.
And Wayne Prep.
Carter Community get their audit?
Two of the ones we said that
Right.
What was our question for?
Had to do with that statement on the non-compliance about financial insolvency. What that means? On the
On
non-compliance list
that, on that spreadsheet that Ashley had sent us. Yeah.
I asked. I was gonna ask Alexis about that statement of financial insolvency on the non-compliance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's just wondering what the financial insolvency, like how you would define that.
Okay, so actually we kind of use 2 terms, which is a financial weakness and a financial insolvency. The reason we use the term financial insolvency is actually because it is in the board policy. But for some of these cases, especially if it's a very small negative fund balance, there is not necessarily a risk of insolvency, but definitely a weakness. So from our perspective, if there's a going concern, if there is if they've had cash flow issues, we can, there's no hard definition per se, but there is definitely, it's kind of the severity of the concerns that we have.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Alexis? All right, if not, we'll go ahead with our renewal presentations. Are we about ready to get started?
The first group that will come before you is Carter Community Charter.
Great, and I'm gonna keep time. I'm also, I'm gonna recuse myself from this, as I am gonna do with all Durham charter schools.
All right, then.
Show.
Let's have Carter Community Charter come up, and if you will, just introduce yourself.
All right, I am Lamanda Pryor. I'm the principal of Carter Community Charter School.
I'm Brian Crawford. I am the founding board member as well as the managing director.
And I am Michael Palmer, a board member.
Okay. I can go ahead and start off with some of the questions I think we'll have, because you're up for renewal, of course. Did y'all do a presentation? How long's your presentation?
All right, 15 minutes. I can cut it down. You go ahead on first. You go on with your
No, I tell you what, do the presentation and we'll interrupt if we need to.
Okay, and I'll make it kind of quick so we can go straight into some of the questions. But as you know, we are Carter Community Charter Schools. We were founded in 1998. We are a school that primarily geared to minority students deemed at risk and academic failure. We have about 83% Black, 13% Hispanic. We have over 90-something% of our students on free and reduced lunch. Some things I just wanted to note that I am the new administrator for Carter. I started in 2016. Due to some different things, they wanted to take the school in a different direction and make sure that we bring it back to the luster that it had. I'm relatively new to charter schools, but I come with over 17 years experience in Durham public schools, and when they got me, I was just coming from Syracuse, where I was completed a transformation class, and I was able to transform a school within a year there in Syracuse, New York. Just kind of jumping right over, you can keep going. Just jumping right in, because I do know you all have some questions that really are going to be important. As our data shows that we are able to grow students, we have able to meet and exceed growth with our students throughout the 5 years. Our overall student performance do show that one of our focus is to increase our proficiency in our college and readiness. As you note, in 2018, while our grade level proficiency dipped down just a bit, our college and career readiness is on an upward track. I want to note what we are doing for road improvement. We are now using the multi-tiered system. A lot of people have spoke about the MTSS system, and we have a MTSS team. We use the early indicators, as they should be properly used, to identify struggling students early. And through a team approach, we provide now a prevention type strategy for those students who are not succeeding academically or behaviorally. Grade levels meet weekly with administration. We review data. We create plans. We share strategy, and we are constantly monitoring student progress. One thing that I'm really proud of is that our parent participations, they are very important to us, and they serve on our school improvement team. Parents are, throughout the process, they are part of their school system of care, and they are included in developing the plans. So what we're trying to do is identify those at risk early and really jump on them in advance of setting up a plan for the students who are not meeting success. When I got there, one of the things that I was able to note that we really need to provide extensive professional development to teachers when they are trying to move struggling students. With that in mind, we have now contracted what we call a certified curriculum trainer, because one of my backgrounds is in curriculum also. The trainer and I have partnered to provide professional development to our teachers throughout the year. We do what we call job embedded training. So it's not that one sit and get. It's we're working with you throughout the year with professional development. We model, we coach, we inside your planning. So when you are looking at students that are struggling, we are right there beside you, giving you the strategies and coaching that you need. We have created and developed standards and pacing guides now that are aligned with the rigor that they need for this to be successful on the end of grade testing or just throughout their grade level. Again, we developed a school improvement team that has parent representation now from all grade level bands. The team meets on every Tuesday to monitor the process of the school towards its SIP goals. We create solutions to parent issues, and we identify available resources. We now have an assistant principal, which also, with the assistant principal and myself, we provide classroom walkthroughs and observations to teachers in a timely manner. We provide constructive feedback to teachers, and we provide intensive support to struggling teachers. One thing I do want to note is that we now have an excellent beginning teacher support program, which we are able to give excellent support to our new teachers, so they can not only feel supported, but they also can stay with the school. We do now what they call backwards mapping, where we get a chance to review the teachers and myself and my assistant principal. We now review the assessments before giving to students. We provide them the resources before they even teach the particular lesson, and we provide them with some support before teaching. So if they're just a little uncomfortable or they need additional assistance in presenting the material, we catch it first before they even get up there to teach with the students. But however, we do have regular data talks. So throughout, once they present, they give their assessments, we're looking back at the data constantly, because as you know, in order to move a school, you have to constantly look at the data, readjust, and decide what types of interventions that you need for them. We created the data coach position. It helps the teachers to understand and navigate, because what I want to do is make sure that I equip the teachers with the best information and knowledge they have to be the best for those students. Now we have additional time is provided in summer school for middle school students who struggle through out the year. We have a 2-week jump start to kindergarten, because what we know that you really need to strengthen your lower level in order to strengthen all levels. And so we are getting a really focus on our younger students. So we offer a jump start to kindergarten. Now we have a 2 weeks either rebound or jump ahead program for those in 1st through 5th grade. And of course, we have the Read to Achieve requirement camp. We use MAP. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are using MAP now, but we also use the Exact Path, which is a direct correlation to the MAP scores. So it allows us to know where the students are and use that particular information to create a success plan for them. We participate now in the NC checkpoints, so we know mid-through where our students are. I want to just note some partnerships that I'm very pleased that we have. As you know, we are in Durham, North Carolina, which has 2 great universities, NCCU and Duke University. And we are lucky that we have both of them enriched in our school. Carter has partnered with NCCU. We intern social workers. We also work with the different departments to provide us those tutors that can be very helpful in the area that they are seeking their degree, such as math, reading, elementary science, and we even now have interns in our physical education department. We are a small school, so from Central we have over 15 consistent volunteers. We have used the professors to provide the Kagan Cooperative Learning, because now we use a guided reading and a guided math type process. In order to do that, last year we did a lot of work and professional development in the Kagan Cooperative Learning. Duke is one of our great partners. They partner for success in the program of education, and the American Reads and American Counts provide over 17 academic tutors to Carter. What we want to do is to make sure those students that are struggling the most are able to have access to one-on-one tutoring or in small group tutors. Because for me and for my school, we're really trying to push and move students forward. One targeted partnership I want to just bring about is called Peaceful Schools. One of the things that Carter is really focused on is really the social and emotional learning of students. As you know, a lot of our students we target are at risk. In order to do that, we need to equip ourselves and equip our teachers with strategies to how do you deal with particular students that come into you that way. I want to make sure that we decrease like suspension rates, and we have a decrease in interruptions in the classroom. So we partner with Peaceful School, and now they're going into the 4th year of actively being involved. And what it does is Peaceful School provides workshops to teachers, administrators, and parents, just how to create a safe and positive school environment. We use job-embedded training within the school, because again, I know that sit and get type professional development sometimes when you're trying to move a school doesn't work. You really need ongoing, you in the trenches, they can really help and mold your teachers. With this same thought, we have partnered with Dr. Chalmers, and Dr. Chalmers is a psychiatrist in Durham community for over 30 years. So he began to look at our cases as we are in the MTSS process, and we have students that come up with some behavior challenges. He can begin to lend his expertise to when we're developing the plans and dealing with the child and the parents. Carter and his staff, we are committed to our mission, which is college prep begins in kindergarten. We have met and exceeded growth over 5 years as measured by the state of North Carolina. We believe our students and teachers and administrators are on the right road for improvement. We have increased support throughout the community through focused professional development, early identification and use of data throughout the quarter to make informed instructional decisions, administration holding teachers and staff accountable, increased parent participation, rigorous lesson planning and pacing guides. Carter will continue to serve students of the Durham community and continue to move ourselves in an upward trend to academic success. Any questions?
Yeah, I mean, in looking at your stuff, I mean, your growth scores are great, but I guess the main concern that I have is why you're, I guess it's just odd to me to see that you exceed growth, but also have your grade level proficiency drop by 2%, as far as you got 2% less of your students that are meeting grade level proficiency, and then that's still, you're lagging about 18% behind what Durham is. And so I guess that's where my play comes in. I mean, I definitely, this is not a non-renew school, but I don't think it's a 10-year either, because you're so far off from the LEA that's there. And so I'd hope to hear a little bit more about, when, I guess what I want to know is, when is the growth that you've been getting, 4 out of the last 5 years you've exceeded growth, the other year you met growth, when is that growth going to start translating into higher proficiency scores?
That is exactly my focus. As you know, we do take students in that are at risk, and a lot of times they come to us further below grade level. So what I am doing is making sure that we provide the professional development and provide the supports we need to meet the students where they are and really grow them faster than just a normal one-year school rate. And that includes just bringing a lot of support around them, creating individualized plans. And to do that, I am making sure, or I'm in a training process with my teachers to equip them with what to do with those students.
Now, how much money do y'all have in the bank?
I'm going to yield that question to my manager director who handles finance.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you all for agreeing to listen to us. I do want to put something in context for you, just about the financial numbers that we heard today. In 2015, we bought a building, which means if you are in this business, when you buy a building, you expend a lot of cash. And particularly in Durham, we had to do a lot of things to make the building compliant to where we wanted to go. So besides buying the building, we also had to buy brand new buses because we served the whole county. So that was a cash expenditure. And then we also had to make improvements to the building to meet Durham code. So that explains some of the reasons why our cash went down. But that was a deliberate decision by the board, because what we're trying to do is build a more quality education from the students that we're letting in the building. So in the past, we've had up to 300 students. But we weren't delivering a quality product to those 300 students. So deliberately, we said we're going to take 250 students. So we have less students coming in. We had to deal with this, with purchasing the building. So we know that there's a short cash flow, but we also know that there's about $800,000, $900,000 in equity in the building. I mean, there's that much difference between our loan and what the building's worth. And it's in an area where the building is pretty marketable. So we could make a decision to sell the building, and that would solve our cash flow. But we're trying to make sure that we can operate the facility as our home, because in the past, when we were renting, we couldn't have the programs that we wanted to have for our children. So this was a deliberate decision by the board. They know the seriousness of this cautionary and probationary, but we're going to resolve it this year. I think the plan that we have is capable of doing that. But to answer your question directly, we probably have about, this time right now, $125,000 in the bank.
And what is your plan specifically to resolve the cash flow issue?
So a couple of things that we're doing. I mean, we have done a soft marketing to see if there's someone who wants to purchase a building. We've got about 2 or 3 people interested in buying the building. The second thing we're doing is we're doing a fundraising program. We have not done a capital fundraising program at all in the 15-year history that we've been here. So we've decided that we're going to do it. We're going to reach out to the community to see exactly what type of funds we can raise. The board has committed their own cash to this, and members of the lead administration have committed cash to that also. We believe we can at least raise this year's deficiency in the first year. But our goal is to try to reach a higher number.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna be, I think it's next month, we'll be voting on renewal schools, so y'all might wanna tune in just to see how our recommendation comes out. But thank y'all for coming and for your presentation.
Would you all like to go to the next group at this time?
Discussion.
Forsyth Academy is the next group that will come before you.
Hello, my name is Wendy Badajas, and I'm the principal at Forsyth Academy.
My name is Beth Robbins. I'm a board member of Forsyth Academy.
Good afternoon, Lori Hill, Director of School Quality for National Heritage Academies.
Thank you all so much for having the opportunity for me to come and share a little bit about our school. I always love the opportunity to brag. I have currently been with National Heritage Academies for 20 years, started out at Greensboro Academy, been at Forsyth for 10 and a half, and I've loved the growth that we've seen at our school. You can see that over the last 4 years, Forsyth has continually improved its overall school performance score and has met growth in the last 3 years. Recently, in the last 4 years, our overall growth score has increased by 24.8 points. And then last year, we exceeded expectations in growth in reading and met expectations in math. As we continue to increase our academic success, I am also wanting to make sure that we are providing a quality education to the scholars that attend our school. And I'm very proud to say that if you see the data above, that our Forsyth student proficiency continues to exceed the closest schools within a 5-mile radius that's like our school in demographics in both math and reading. The average of the math is 33%, and we're 45%, and reading is 34%, and we're 52%. So that's both of them averaged together has about 15 percentage points above. And I know that we weren't far below the district in math, and we actually exceeded the reading portion proficiency for Forsyth County. Our MAP, the Northwest Evaluation Association, we also take part in that, and that also shows and supports our ongoing growth in both math and reading. But without any of this, it wouldn't matter unless we had some 3 major improvement points that we put into place several years ago as I became principal, and we've continued to try to refine this as the years go on. Those 3 are enrich standards-based. We truly honestly have moved our instructions to standards-based, being the fact that everything we do evolves around the standards. That includes making sure we have the best curricular tools to meet and support that so our teachers can teach that, but also that it matches the rigor. We've also taken place last year in doing the NC check-ins, and we'll continue to do so this year online. We've been having great success with that. We also know that our students need to know why they're learning what they're learning, and being able to have those learning objectives aligned with those standards, and that they are posted, referred to, and that they are assessed ongoing throughout the lesson. Second, data-driven. You cannot be a school of improvement without looking at your data and then taking that data into further use. We know that in order to increase our academic success, those assessments must be standard-driven. They must be aligned to that format and rigor of that state assessment. We know that the standards, we need to look at those and make sure that our scholars are mastering those. We assess those weekly, we track them, and then we make any necessary adjustments as needed for our scholars. Our teachers, we actually put them in lots of opportunities to have data dives. It's a 3-hour data dive that they are able to look and disaggregate their data, but not only be able to disaggregate it, but then create a plan for intervention. Our third area of improvement is that enhanced intervention piece. Our teachers do adjust their instructional practices ongoing, whether that's their instructional delivery, the reteach, and then could also be the pacing based on the data and the collection of those mastery of standards. Significant time has been given and allotted toward our intervention block. We find that it's important that we must increase our intervention block, and then utilizing all the interventions in our building as needed. I like to call it my SWAT team that comes in and literally works with each child depending on where they are. That intervention is scheduled at the very end, the last bullet. 3 years ago, we aligned all of our master schedule to have all of our interventionist schedules aligned. Special education, English language learner, that reading and math specialist, Title I, paraprofessionals, everyone comes in and is aligned for that particular math and reading intervention block, which actually meets the standards of our multi-tier support system as well. However, we could not do this alone. I'm super proud to say that our school board supports us along this journey, and I'd like to ask Ms. Beth to come and share.
Again, I'm Beth Robbins. I'm a member of Forsyth Academy's Board of Directors. I have been a part of Forsyth Academy for 15 years there now. Started out as a kindergarten teacher and then moved to the role as assistant principal and testing coordinator, and now I am on the Board of Directors. Our board retains independent legal counsel. We hold our management partner, National Heritage Academies, accountable, and we work very well with them. We are financially sound, and we receive audits yearly, and we are compliant in all areas of our operational and financial performance framework. And that concludes our presentation, and we are open for questions.
How many students do you serve?
We currently have 676 K-8.
So it looks like you're outperforming the county in terms of economically disadvantaged students.
Yes, sir.
And are you at your max size? I see in 2014-15 you grew to 720 students, but what is your relative kind of ideal scale?
704 is generally each year an average of our students.
704 is where you would like to be?
Yes.
So it looks like you started out with over 1,000 and then went up to about, went up to 1,100, but then it's been decreasing since then.
No, we've never had that amount.
That's not the NHA model.
That's what I was wondering, but that's
Well,
what
this
says.
It's sure showing it here.
Is that what's on our student state
I think
report
you're
card?
looking at the wrong thing.
Are you looking at Forsyth Academy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're looking at some wrong numbers here on.
I was getting ready to say, because the Forsyth Academy I've got was 2013-14 was 691.
Yeah. I'm looking at Alan's chart. Did you doctor the chart?
I mean, it looks like to me y'all fall, and it's really, I mean, in between in the 2015-16 year, so that's 3 years back, you were about 10% behind Forsyth County, which knocks you out of the automatic 10-year renewal. Because otherwise, you would have, if you'd been within 5 points, then you would have had the automatic 10-year renewal. So it looks like you fall in our guidelines at a 7, is what it looks like. But I mean, to me, it's a solid 7. I mean, I just don't think that it's I just don't see a lot of issues here. It seems like you're going up, you're meeting growth. Am I making a valid analysis of this?
It seems like you all have done some good work
Thank
on
you.
the academics fronts in the last, 5 years. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you would like to see it match right up with the county or increase at a more significant and more aggressive pace, but you're outpacing the county's economically disadvantaged student population. You're also you're within the 5 points in terms of the county. So it's remarkable how consistent the county is, and actually looking at their GLP.
One thing we don't have the number of, and we've got it from the school, we know that the school's 80% economically disadvantaged. It'd probably be good for us to know what the LEA's economically disadvantaged percentage was as well, as far as number of students. Does anybody know what Forsyth County's ED population is?
No.
It's not 80. I
can't imagine it's 80%.
It's nowhere close to 80.
It's not 80. No, sir.
Yeah, that's why they're outperforming by 10%.
What is all
Yeah.
those numbers for then?
I mean, they're outperforming by 10% with more economically
Correct.
disadvantaged
Right, that's
students
what I'm
than
saying.
than the LEA
Correct.
has.
Pretty good.
Given the challenges, we still outperform.
Pretty good.
Where did,
I don't know
where did that stuff come from?
Yeah, where did this come from?
Alan, where'd you print that from?
Do we,
Where they shipped
I
it
just want to
out.
make sure that everyone on the board has all of the,
You know, they have a lot higher
renewal
percentage of
sheets.
disadvantaged students than the county has.
Right.
So I'm thinking this is remarkable performance, really. Last
Yeah.
2 years, see on the school's report card, meeting growth.
County,
Well, next
Performance
month, if
is going
somebody
up.
makes a 10-year motion, I would be willing to support it next month.
see that?
yes. No, I did not. Just 1 second here. I just want to make sure everybody's looking at the same thing.
About 2
Do you all have, Ms. Cooper, maybe you could resend so people have at the top of their inbox the, just all the data sheets just for the renewals. And I think we printed out some of the stuff maybe last time and people don't have that, or it's, I don't think it's in the I don't think it's in the binder.
No, I looked in the
So-
binder.
I just,
But Alan obviously printed it from somewhere.
We had it last month. I made those numbers up myself, sure.
Apparently.
The title of it. Email.
I'm gonna email it out to everybody really quick, cause I've got this email sitting open right here and I'll just resend it to everybody, so it's at the top of your email. It's actually
All these,
from,
but not that one. And I didn't have the last one.
Ashley emailed this to me.
I actually have it from Steven.
Yeah.
Ashley likes you and she
Just
doesn't
give me a
like
second. Just wanna make sure everybody's looking at the same thing.
This is a school that I was actually very worried about a few years ago, and I'm very pleased with their improvement the last couple of years.
All right, everybody should have it now.
You guys opened in 2014?
No, ma'am, we opened in 1999. We're the same
been
age as
around a long
Greensboro
First
Academy.
wave.
So that's totally messed up.
All right, well, I don't have that many questions about this school. Does anybody else?
Okay.
Nope.
Go on.
So they're one of our old.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Lakeside Charter Academy.
I didn't even look at this paper this time. It's wrong.
Good afternoon. My name's Jim Montag. I'm the principal of Lakeside Charter Academy, and this is Jason Guffey, our vice president of our board. I became the principal of Lakeside June 1st of this year.
Lakeside, the one they changed the name.
We currently have 94 students at Lakeside Charter Academy and my daughter, who's in kindergarten. So we're 95 students. 56 students remain after last year. We have 39 newly enrolled students since June 1st. And when I came in, I knew that we had to push enrollment as hard as we could. And therefore, this presentation will highlight that. I continue to give tours. I actually have 5 tours this week for students. The recruitment that I've done at Lakeside Charter Academy, or that we've done since I arrived on June 1st, I've had information sessions, and this is really over the summer, and I pretty much had one every week to pull in our community and to give information about our school, to give tours of our school. We also attended Second Friday festivals. That was great community building. I always made sure we were across from the bouncy houses and the ice cream, so we would be in a good spot to get all the students we could. You know, you have to think outside the box, and that's just what I came in. We're rebranding our school, and we need to get the word out. We also attended National Night Out that included firefighters and police officers, and it was a terrific event just once again to get our tent out there. We're also doing the Birkdale Holiday Festival. We're actually the first school that's going to be able to walk in the parade, which is fantastic. That gets the involvement of our family and the community, but we also are able to showcase our school and what we're doing. Here's just some dates of the recruitment sessions that we had over the summer. Like I said, they were pretty much every week. I wanted to make sure that I was always available to give information sessions. Our dates for our second Friday festivals, our open house and block parties. We had one on July 22nd where we had food trucks, bouncy houses, everything that a child would enjoy and a family would enjoy, we had to pull people in. And we just had our fall festival open house, and that was last Saturday. Finally, we have a Caldwell Station neighborhood meeting on November 14th. They asked if they could use our facility, so we will have 60 families coming in at that time. And I told them that we would allow them to do that if I could speak to all of the families prior to that meeting. Once again, that is to get traffic into our neighborhood and into our school. Caldwell Station neighborhood actually has 500 homes. And my presentation is a little different just because sometimes I can talk to you, but I think also seeing what we've done. These are 2 flyers for the food truck festivals on July 13th and August 10th. This is a picture of us at the fall festivals, and this is with our tent, our signage. Obviously, I'm holding a beach ball there, a Frisbee, anything to get our word out, tie bags. Just like I said, we're rebranding, and I'll tell you what, those tie bags went like hotcakes, and just seeing people wear them gets the word out about Lakeside Charter Academy. These are for our open houses and block parties. Once again, these are our flyers that went out to the community. I actually, the staff and I canvassed all the local areas, the preschools, just to get as many people as we could in. I'll tell you, our fall festival, we had hundreds of people that attended. We've also looked into advertising and promoting. Bella Love Incorporated, they do our email blasts, newsletters, Facebook. They have about thousands of people on Facebook. We also did the Cornelius Today, 2 ads in the paper. That's our local paper that will go through Lake Norman, Davidson, Cornelius, Huntersville. That's our local area. Planet Fitness, they shoot a commercial every hour, and that's 24 hours a day. So when they go in there to work out, every hour a commercial about Lakeside Charter Academy will come on. Mayor Woody Washam came to our school, and I was lucky enough to give him a tour. He said that they were having a town hall meeting and that the public could speak for 3 minutes. So I used 2 minutes and 59 seconds to speak to the town hall meeting and all the members there. And at the bottom of that, that's actually their minutes from their town hall meeting. We also have an increased web presence. We've had 158 visits to our website within the last month. We've had 154 searches that were looking for directions to our school. 23 phone calls to the school in 1 week just from our website. And social media has grown from 1,500 to over 4,000 users. And our website traffic is up 15%. Finally, we pushed for marketing partners. We used Charter School Initiative, which was CSI. Right now, we're using American Enrollment Specialist. And finally, as I stated, Bella Love Incorporated. Our academics at our school are strong. We use Core Knowledge Language Arts for our ELA program. We use Math and Focus, which is fantastic, for our math program. And finally, we use Shirley English or Shirley Grammar, which helps students learn how to write effectively. Finally, our assessments, we use NC Check-ins, iReady, and obviously M-Class and Reading 3D. In our professional development, we had 10 days at the beginning of the year for professional development for our core knowledge and for our math and focus and our grammar English. And I wanted to equip our teachers with as many weapons as they could to continue being successful academically. And finally, the retention for staff, unfortunately, we did have to RIF 2 employees this year due to our numbers at the beginning of the year. However, the staff that remains have not left. And I will say that the culture and morale, and I'm not just saying this because I'm the principal, is very strong, and it's very community-wise. And finally, we have enrichment and remediation the last hour of every school day. We also have an all-school assembly every Friday. And what we do with this is we have local leaders come in and speak to our school about our 3 pillars. And our 3 pillars are our citizenship, our scholarship, and our leadership. So I've had chefs come in to speak to our students. I just had a 24-year Army veteran come and speak to our students, authors come and speak to our students, because we want our students to be leaders, and we want our students to be an all-around good person. And I always say students are like a coin. You have their behavior and their academic, but you cannot separate them. So we are looking for the whole child. Finally, I do a one-on-one planning with teachers once a week, where I go over their lesson plans and anything that's going on in their classroom. And that is the end of.
Okay.
Sorry if I talk too fast.
No, it's good. I mean, I guess my number one question with this school has always been financial. The academics have always been solid, and I mean, and you've got some rough patches on your enrollment, which you're seeming to make a lot up. But what's going on with the? I mean, we just heard it doesn't appear that the lease payments are being made. What's the deal with the lease right now?
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Guffey, as I just came in June.
Good afternoon. So clearly, as you stated, enrollment's been our issue. First year they had 400 students. Second year they had 450, and then after that, enrollment continued to drop off for a variety of reasons. Having it announced in the local paper that your school was shut down never helps. So we have been trying to earn the trust back of the community and community leaders, and that's gone a long way. Also, we've been working on earning the trust of continuing to hold the trust of the landlords, the folks that own the facility. So they've been gracious in continuing to extend the lease. That they believe in the mission and the program, as well as the leadership. And they see the writing on the wall that students are starting to come back to the facility. They're starting to come back and trust the education and the staff that's there on site. So we're not in jeopardy of losing the facility. Just they've been, again, overly gracious in extending this.
So they're just letting you be there for free?
Well, we are setting aside, so the first couple of years they capitalized the debt, and that's part of our lease payment now. And they've loaned us the money to, of course, we'll have to pay it when we're able.
Piper has to be paid at some point, and I guess that's what my concern is when do you have to pay the Piper?
So our lease arrangements with them are that the payments are able to start when we reach 200 children, and then it's a escalated payment as we increase in enrollment.
What is the current enrollment, if I could ask again?
We're at 95.
What was your what did you project in CSADM?
Did we go for 200 or 100?
150.
150.
Okay, so that means you got paid your first installment on 150, but you really only have 95, so there's gonna be a reckoning with that.
Oh, clearly, absolutely. And our year-to-date budget reflects that. So we, of course, as he mentioned, we had to lay off two teachers, unfortunately, but we didn't have the student population to justify keeping them on staff.
What's the status of the audit, given that it's a renewal year? Shouldn't that have been a high priority to make sure that got in on time?
Sure. So we've been advised by our auditors that it's on its way, and they said that we'll have it before the end of November.
So you haven't seen the audit?
I have not. Our financial chair is working closely with them, as well as our business manager is working with them.
So it'll be to the LGC by the end of November?
Excuse me?
It will be to the LGC by the end of November? Or it'll be to you?
No, it should be to the LGC by the end of November.
Needs to be the LGC by the end of this week. I mean,
Gotta make
we've got to have
decisions.
time for the LGC to look through it before we can make a determination, and it's going to be, I mean, I'm just going to say it's going to be hard to make a recommendation that you guys would like if we don't have the audit numbers when we go to vote on this school.
I can appreciate that.
I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, it's due October 31st every year. And
What's the
so-
total outstanding debt for the school? I mean, all in, how much does the school owe? Do you have any idea?
It would be a lot easier if I could just shoot you an email. Then
Just because you don't have it off the top of your head?
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, I guess we could just wait for the audit.
What grades are you guys, K-8?
We are K-8.
K-8 right now with 95 students.
Correct.
Can you tell me
How's that working?
Do you have combination classes?
That's something that I can answer. Yes, we actually have our 5th and 6th grade is a combination class. Yes, that's correct. And to be honest, our middle school is has the lowest numbers. And you know, if I had my druthers and I knew what I was coming into, I probably would have had it as a K-5 because our K-5 numbers are you know, stronger. It's where middle school kind of drops off. And to be honest, you know, this is my first year. I didn't have any real dog in the fight with Thunderbird, but I will say that this school's different now from what I hear just from the parents that have been there and from the staff that's been there. The community needs it. I mean, we're Cornelius is only charter school, and you know, I'm not here to blow smoke. I know they've had issues, but you also have 95 families that are, you know, that love this school now, and I think they've gone through, you know, the ins and outs and the bottoms and the tops, but now they want to see it succeed. And I met with every school teacher for 30 minutes before I came in, and because I wanted them to know me, and I wanted me to know them, and them to know me, but to see if it's a good fit. And almost every teacher said, I want to see the school succeed. And, you know, and these people have been through it all, but, you know, it's a great school now. And I tell people all the time, you can call any one of the 95 families and you will get a positive review. And I think this also shows on our Facebook page as well. Sorry to go on my tangent.
Well, my concern about that is that if you end up out of money and can't pay the bills, you don't have a school to be a very good school.
Very true.
So the budget that you have, who is your financial firm, or do you have one?
Yeah, we use Acadia, Northside.
So if you have recalibrated the budget and
Absolutely.
You can make it to year end.
Yes.
If you live within the budget.
Yes.
Your landlord's a saint.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Can we get a copy of that updated budget?
Yeah, we'll need
that's
that.
projected to June 30th, 2019.
Absolutely.
Before we make our vote next month.
Absolutely.
And also how much you actually are gonna owe on this building till you get to 200. Like at this point, they're not charging you, but when you get there, you're gonna have to pay them back.
Correct. And our current budget anticipate or contemplates paying them. I mean, it's a smidget, right? But it just doesn't feel right to not. But we're still breaking even, being able to give them a token payment. And I guess that's the point, is that I came in August of 2017 trying to help the school figure out where they are and what was going on.
What's your background? Are you a financial person?
No, sir. Construction.
Is there is the board all new?
Yes, except for our financial advisor.
Except for who?
Our not advisor, our financial chair. She was with the original board, and then she stepped off for a while, and then she came back to help. But yeah, we've changed the board, we've changed the leadership, we've done an overhaul of the facility. We've just the curriculum, everything, just from top to bottom, to be able to present Cornelius a school that's.
What's your cash flow situation in terms of how much cash do you have on hand?
So right now, I believe we're sitting with about 50 grand in the bank. So it's tight right now until we get our ADM, but.
Okay.
What's your monthly payroll that you're paying?
Yeah, I printed off and very small, and I had a birthday. But again, is this something I might be able to get you with the audit?
Yes, in your budget.
Can you meet teacher payroll the next month, next 2 months?
Yes, sir.
Next 3 months? You're
Yes, sir.
confident you can?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next steps, we should need a budget. We would like to know I don't know if FBS can comment. I mean, they're a going concern. Like, I mean, that's, there's clearly a risk of potentially running out of money. But if you're, you guys are just going to have to squeeze to make it through the year.
That's correct.
But certainly not having to pay the rent helps. So we'll need the audit, updated budget, to Office of Charter Schools, is there anything else that the board wants to see? Can we get a list of your current board members and bios?
Sure.
Updated, a list of the board and their resumes?
Yes.
Because there's been a lot of churn with multiple leaders, multiple board members that we've kind of seen as Thunderbird has tried to reconstitute itself or go from the place it was to Lakeside. So we just want to know who the people are that is kind of really responsible for the charter at this point. Do you have is there a management company?
There's not one, no, sir.
So it's just you all, and you contract out the financial.
That's correct.
To Acadia. Any other major vendors or contractors that are marketing companies?
Not other than our marketing, which is.
Okay.
What's the background of the new school leader?
Jim?
Yeah, if we could have your bio and that stuff, your bio.
Sure, I'll be happy
or
to.
Your resume.
I'll try not to bore you. But I've only worked in North Carolina charter schools. I'm sorry. Oh, you just want me to send it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to Office of Charter School so we can take a look at all that.
I'd like to see also if you have any fundraising plans in place as part of that packet that you provide for next month.
Absolutely.
So and last question, you've done a lot. You did a lot of recruitment clearly since June. You're still doing a lot. What is how many new students have enrolled since school started?
Since school started, 4.
Okay. So you may have like a chance to get a few more after the winter break, but then focus should probably be on
Next year.
That's exactly right.
Correct.
Yeah, really, even at this point,
Mm-hmm.
focus on next year.
I have you've spent an awful lot of money on marketing. I get it because you need kids, but if you look at that for 4 kids, that really was expensive.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it at the 39 too since June 1st. So if I hadn't captured those 39 students, we'd be at 56. So I have to look at it that way too. And like we said, that fall festival was more for next year. Was more for getting them in and getting them excited, and it seemed to work. And to be honest, I have a form on the back. We've had 15 applications in the last 3 days come through, and I reach out to them personally, and then we have our grade level teacher reach out to them as well. Because anyone that clicks that button, we want to try and bring them in.
Do you have a background in marketing?
I don't, but I learn quickly. Okay, quickly, I've only worked in North Carolina charter schools. I started at Socrates Academy, which is a blue ribbon school, as we all know, as an ELA teacher, and I founded their athletic program. I then went to 3rd grade, and I taught English language arts. I realized I loved the little guys a little bit more than I loved the middle schoolers. I then went to Charlotte Choice Charter School as an assistant principal. Quickly realized that, I better get moving. So I did that for 3 years. I wrote my dissertation on effective versus ineffective North Carolina charter schools and why they succeed versus fail. So I guess now I have to put my money where my mouth is and get this thing to be successful. That was pretty quick, but that's it.
Well said.
All right.
Well said.
Great. Well, we'll look for that data in the audit and whatnot. And thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you. All right. Next is Mountain Community School.
Yes, you might be the right person for the job.
15 minutes on the clock.
I thought we piled on there.
Still has 31. We've already done the November updates, correct? Right. So we can probably build in a break here after this one. All right. Bio break is coming, team. After this one, we'll take a break. Bio break.
Ready?
Water, bathroom.
I like to see Hendersonville people in here.
Thank you. We like to be here.
I'm an Edneyville guy, so.
Oh, are you? I like Edneyville.
I do too.
It's close. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So my name is Tanya Blackford. I am currently the board president for Mountain Community School. I have one child who's currently in 6th grade there, and I recently had an 8th grader who completed. So I have been a parent for 9 years and on the board for the last 4 and board president for the last 2. And I just would love to take this opportunity to tell you thank you for your role in charter schools. It has been an amazing blessing for my family and for Hendersonville schools. I'm involved with Henderson County Public Schools, so I love them too. For my family and for my community, I have loved that experience. And seeing what a great job we do with kids. And with me I have Brad Hellmark, who's our interim vice principal, and Corey Nelson, who's our EC coordinator, and they are going to go through some of those exciting slides and numbers.
I'm going to skip through the mission statement. I'm assuming you guys have already kind of briefly looked through this, or would you like me to read our mission statement? Or
go
you're
for
good.
it.
Okay, that's what I figured. If we can just jump, straight to. Well, let's just go through some of our philosophy here. 1 second. Okay, so we do focus on individualized learning. That we do believe that each child kind of learns at their own pace. So we make sure that we create a program that fosters that type of development. We have learning through expeditions, which is kind of like a thematic learning process to teach our curriculum. It focuses on participation, character growth, teamwork, and overall reflection. We also do a lot of collaborative learning at our school. That learning is enhanced when students have an opportunity to connect with their peers and teachers in a variety of environments. And we also do learning through service. So each of our classes pair up with a community organization, and we try to incorporate that into our curriculum. Some of our key initiatives that we've been focusing on for the last few years is this learning through expedition, which it's a multidisciplinary unit. It's our thematic unit, focusing on a lot of different of those common core standards. We've also established an AIG program in 2016. And we've also partnered up with St. Gerard House to create what we call our SOAR program, and that provides ABA therapy and social skills training for students who meet that need. We also have introduced a language disorder support, so kids that need special attention in areas of reading and writing. We have an Orton Gillingham specialist that provides an extra layer of support for those students. And then we've also created several different types of intervention support over the last couple of years to really focus on reading and math interventions for all of our students at our school.
I am the EC coordinator at Mountain Community School, so I am involved in a lot of the data, so I will be doing the next slides. One of the natures about our charter school is that a lot of students who come to our school are looking for an alternative to their current LEA that they're in. And so because of that, we get a lot of students who come into our school below grade level. Their parents are looking for something that they didn't feel like they were getting, and their child was struggling, so they're looking for an alternative. So we looked at the past 2 years of data, and we had 28 students leave in those 2 years, and we had 45 new students come in. And this is really true of grades 3 through 8. Our kindergarten students coming in are just like any other school, but the older the child gets, the more this becomes true. Of the 28 students that were transferring out of our school, that were leaving our school, 79% were at or above grade level when they exited. And then the new students that we got to replace those students transferring in, only 60% of them were at or above grade level upon entry. Of those 40% that were below grade level when they entered our school, over half of them entered with an IEP. So because of that, our students with disabilities rate is a little higher than our county that we live in. We are at 20% of our students, or 42 out of the 200 students we have an IEP. And most of those are academically struggling students.
On the transferring out, is that because they're leaving from 8th grade, or
we included grades 3 through 8, yes.
So it could be a variety of reasons.
Yes.
So we have students from 8th grade typically leave, and then from 5th grade, we have a lot that want to go into
the middle school.
Traditional, because of the sports and other stuff that's offered through traditional.
Excuse me, what is your current enrollment?
197, yes, roughly 200.
And you have a wait list as well?
We do.
How large is the wait list?
I think that's going to depend on the grade.
We usually have around 80 kids who ask to be on the lottery, and then students who ask all throughout the year as well.
And like another school mentioned, we have it's larger for elementary school. People tend to get comfortable where they're at and they no longer want to transfer, but we do have a waiting list for middle school as well.
And we've noticed a tremendous change in the last few years over middle school, that 5th grade leaving. Those students really are staying all the way through 8th grade, much more so than they had before.
That's one of our initiatives, is to figure out why our 5th to 6th transition, why they were leaving and what we could do to support that. And we were just talking about it's already working. We're seeing a decline in our students leaving from 5th to 6th grade. All right, so we also, I've heard a lot of other charter schools talk about MAP. We also use the measure of academic performance. We do this at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, and it correlates a lot with the EOG. It's a state recognized test. Like for the 3rd grade, Read to Achieve, the state recognizes the NWEA MAP as an alternative. So our MTSS team, we actually had this data at the end of last year, and we analyzed where our problem areas were. And as you can see, both the EOG scores and the MAP reflect the same problem areas. And so our team right away actively started an action plan on how to address these problem areas. And then Brad is going to talk a little bit about our retesting for EOGs.
So we just wanted to make a note that we don't really push for retesting for our EOGs. We do have a board approved policy for retesting, but I believe this year was the first time we've done it in a while that we really kind of limit the need for retesting. This past year we've only had like 6 students. We kind of leave the option open for those students that happen to maybe have a bad test day or something along that line, but we really don't push for EOG retesting at the end of each school year.
If we're going to retest, we want there to be a purpose behind the retesting. Yes. So this is what you have in front of you, our 4 years of EOG data, and we have graphed it to show that, 1, we've come a long way in the past 4 years, and 2, our trend line is such that we are very, very close to being within the same data points as our county that we reside in. The other thing underneath the graph you'll notice is the yes?
Which one are you, the zigzag?
We are the zigzag, and then we're also the trend line. So that's just a projection of.
So you don't have Henderson County on there?
No. We just sat here and talked about this in hindsight. So we were gonna put a Henderson County, but it was hard to create a graph because it was hard to create a graph of where we were going to do the expected growth, like if we were going to be equal to Henderson County, but we thought it was misleading because 4 years ago that's not actually where they were, so they're not on there. Below the graph you'll notice that we are so close to our LEA that a lot of this, as well as the previous stuff I talked about, a lot of this has to do with our population. So the larger the sample you have, the more consistent your scores will be, and then therefore the smaller your sample, the more inconsistent. So this 1% of difference can be the equivalent of 2 students versus their 1% can be the equivalent of 93 students. So a couple of students having a bad testing day can really skew our data.
So the 14, 15, that was one of those was my daughter, who had straight A's, great math scores, really had a tough day and a tough test, and got whatever the lowest grade you could get.
And we didn't offer retesting that year. That was the year that we did no retesting at all. 2016, 17.
Yeah. So 2 students can greatly skew the data.
That's the year that's the reason why y'all are here and didn't get an automatic 10-year renewal.
Mm-hmm.
16, 17.
And that's the one year we did not do retesting.
Yeah, because that's the only year you weren't comparable to the LEA.
Oh, okay.
Right. Otherwise, you would have got a 10-year and no interview.
Henderson County did retesting that year.
And that's why we've added it to the board. I mean, the board has made that a new policy for those reasons.
Might want to rethink the retesting.
Well, we did. We did it this past year, and now it's something that we revisit annually.
Yeah.
Because yes, 2 students can make a huge difference, or you know, for us.
Okay.
All right.
And then lastly, the things that we did through our MTSS team, as soon as we recognized these problem areas, and just in general as part of our process through this MTSS program, we have implemented standard protocol interventions for teachers to make it very expedited to get a student into an intervention, and then we're in the second year of a cohort for our MTSS team. We're actively looking at all of our academic scores. We 2 years ago had created a targeted math goals for our SIB team, recognizing that that was our area that we wanted to grow in. And all of our interventions, the standard protocols, we have implemented math, got another layer to it. They're research-based interventions. And again, it's very easy to expedite a student as soon as they show signs of struggle. We in the problem areas that the previous graph shows for the grade level math curriculum, we have implemented curriculum changes and support through professional development for those problem areas. And then in addition to support all of this that we're doing, we're increasing summative screening through the MAP and the progress monitoring for all of our students.
And I also want to add to that, we didn't put on the slide, is we also have another
Microphone so everybody, people.
Yeah, we also added a new EC teacher in middle school to help address some of the issues there as well. So now we have a full-time EC teacher for math and a full-time EC teacher for language arts.
So this is just an overview of what our team looks like. We talked about the number of students that we have. 22 full-time staff, 14 certified teachers, 11 teachers with master's degrees, 2 national board. I hate reading to people.
Any questions?
I do want to send our apologies. Our principal, Denise Pesch, could not be here because of medical reasons. She is listening, so she is here in spirit, literally. But she sends her appreciation for your time.
I think y'all are doing a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, and you look at it, except for that little blip in 16, 17, you've been comparable. I like the way that you're outperforming the county with students with disabilities, and you're doing it with a higher number of students with disabilities than the LEA has. And so, I mean, I've got no concerns about this school, and I mean, just really wish that the 16, 17 had been up there. We could have saved y'all a 4-hour trip.
That's right.
Gives us experience.
You know, there's no retesting this year in math.
Yeah, no retesting in math this year.
Yeah, we know that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just,
Well, math, that won't count against them either.
well, they don't know.
And
what they're
remember,
gonna-
the
they don't know
framework
what
is
they're gonna
only a
do with it.
guideline.
I know the framework's only a guideline, and I'm gonna move for a 10-year when we talk about this next
All
month.
right, well, you heard it here first. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Unless the audit comes back hairy or
Time
something. No, your beard made me
Time
say
to
hairy,
time to
sorry.
run away from the
Love the beard, by the way.
podium. Go out on top.
We just don't have the review of it yet.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to reconvene in 10 minutes at 2:45. Our next
Pioneer Springs.
group is going to be Pioneer Springs Community.
Vice Chair. Good afternoon. This is Anant Neelakantan. I am Treasurer of the Board.
And good afternoon. My name is Becky Friend, and I serve as the Operations and Academic Director at Pioneer Springs. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today as you consider renewal for Pioneer Springs. Both Abigail and I were listening to the live stream on October 8th when you first discussed our data, and it goes without saying that while we were disappointed in the outcome of that particular conversation, it was instructional in the sense that we came to become much more aware of General Statute 115C-218.6. I've been in charter schools for some 15 years, and I had little awareness of this particular law. I think in studying it and thinking about the discussion that you had on October 8th, it really caused me to ask the question, how do we compare with the schools around us? It also gave me a little bit of insight into the renewal process because it caused us to look at that policy. I think it's Charter School Policy 007, which talks about the renewal guidelines. Now, you've seen this data. This is what you considered when you first talked about Pioneer Springs. And I think, as is the case with any data, we all know it's a sliver of a picture of the thing which it measures. So I would just say when you look at Pioneer Springs, the first in the past 3 years, you'll see that we jumped from a D school to a C school in that 2015 school year. We had a 10-point growth on the composite, and we met our target growth goals. In the next year, we jumped another 11 points on the composite score. We went from a C school to an almost B with a 69 composite score, and we exceeded our growth goals. This past year, we were disappointed to see that we remained a C school while we met our growth goals for reading, which is a strength for us instructionally. We went backwards in 3rd through 6th grade with math scores. And as the case with all data, we use that data to inform decisions for this year. We made the assumption that everything was wrong about how we were teaching math, and so we revisited personnel. We revisited who was teaching what, how we were teaching. We brought in consultants for professional development. We changed our instructional materials, especially in light of the change of the content standards, and we kind of started from square one. But I want to go back to this question of how we compare with Charlotte-Mecklenburg, because that's our home district, and that's essentially the reason that we're speaking with you today, because of that score in 2015-16. If you're unfamiliar with this school district, it's maybe the 3rd or 4th largest district in North Carolina, I think. Last year they served almost 150,000 students. They have 176 schools. And practically everything you can think of. They have elementary, middle, high schools. They have a couple K-8, one K-12. They have alternative schools. They have a foreign language immersion program. They have magnet schools. By comparison, Pioneer Springs last year served 277 students in kindergarten through 6th grade. David, meet Goliath. Now, I agree with the young lady who spoke before us from the Mountain Community School when she talked about basic statistics, and that is when you have a large sample size, you tend to get a more even number. To make this comparison worthwhile for our purposes, we decided to take a look truly at the public schools that were in close proximity to us. So I pulled up a Google map, and I took a look at the public schools within a 10-mile radius of Pioneer Springs. And here are the results. The majority of the schools closest to us are elementary schools. And you can see that last year, and I'll just interject here, I pulled this data from the school performance grades that's located on DPI's accountability website. I also confirmed it with our regional accountability coordinator. Last year, we certainly were comparable with all the elementary schools around us, especially when you take the average. If you throw in the one middle school that's close to us within that 10-mile radius, we certainly outperformed students at Alexander Middle. I thought about looking for the closest high school to us, but because I spent the first half of my career as a high school English teacher and then a high school principal, I kind of thought there was an apples to orange comparison. I mean, high school students are a totally different population. They're a different age. They study different content. They take different tests. And yet, for the purpose of this comparison, 36 schools in Charlotte-Meck were in the equation that led to our interview here today. Now, I guess I say all this because it begs the question, why do folks who live in Charlotte-Mecklenburg choose to attend Pioneer Springs? And I think there's some common answers for that. First and foremost is our non-traditional approach to education. I'd almost describe that as a get dirty approach. When we talk about hands-on instruction in a traditional public school setting, you might think about kids going to a lab to work and experiment, or you might think about some project-based learning. At Pioneer Springs, when our students want to study, say, life cycles, they go out to the pond out back and they see how frogs turn into tadpoles. When they want to study ecosystems, they can go to any of the 3 certified wildlife habitats on our campus. They can go into our forest and lay out a plot where they can count the number of tree canopies or count the number of snags and wood debris on the ground to study ecosystems. It's very much experiential at Pioneer Springs. I think another reason that people choose our school is our emphasis on celebration. On any day, you can see folks singing. You might walk in on a dance party. Ours is a place where we celebrate learning constantly. We're a trimester school, and so at the end of each trimester, we have a trimester celebration where our parents and community come in to see what our students know and can do. We even plan our field trips around our educational celebration. In the spring, all grade levels go on a Spring into the Woods adventure. These are typically overnight adventures where our students can apply the skills that they've learned throughout the school year. Another big draw for Pioneer Springs is our growing diversity. We're certainly, over the 4 years that we've been measuring data, we're certainly growing more racially diverse and more socioeconomically diverse. One statistic in particular that I want to point out to you is that we have a high population of children with disabilities. When we take the December head count, we anticipate that 20% of our population will have an IEP. That doesn't account for 504s, ESL plans, straight up IEPs. What's interesting is if you look at our performance data, that population outperforms the county and the state time and time again. And I think that is one of the draws why people choose to come to Pioneer Springs. Finally, I would say it's our articulated academic profile. We have a plan and we work it, and it's very much one of individualized learning. So what individualized learning looks like at Pioneer Springs is very little whole group instruction and an awful lot of individualized and small group instruction. Certainly, according to best practice, we group in a variety of different ways. Our students are sometimes grouped based on the skill that they're trying to acquire. Sometimes they're grouped based on their particular strength. Sometimes we group according to the role that we've given them or the outcome that we're choosing to see. One thing that's unique about Pioneer Springs, according to our charter, we don't use traditional grading systems. We don't use percentages, and we don't use letter grades. And that sometimes makes it difficult to talk about how students are learning and growing. What it requires on the instructional side is that we keep a great deal of data. And so we do that by using MAP, like so many other schools, M-class scores. We've developed our own in-house math assessment based on the Kathy Richardson spectrum. We use personalized education plans for every single student. And based on this year, we are putting into place our digital learning portfolios. Pioneer Springs was one of 8 school districts and really 2 single schools that received a digital teaching and learning grant this year from the state. Our intention is to use those funds this year as we plan for meaningful implementation of those digital portfolios and then to actually implement next year. I think one of the neatest things about that, kind of a byproduct, are all the partnerships that we've made through that process. We've partnered with Rowan Salisbury Schools, who is also moving away from traditional grading into the digital portfolio. We've partnered with Explorus. We've even partnered with Jefferson County, Kentucky, in the effort to bring digital portfolios to our school. Some other things that we're doing now and looking towards the future. Next week, we'll be finishing the accreditation process, which you know is all about the process and not about the product. It's a process of continuous improvement, and for us, it means we've done a deep dive on our data and taken a look at what we do well and where our areas, our opportunities for growth are. We're interested to see when this accreditation body comes to us next week, if what they see is similar to what we see, and then to use that data to inform the decisions about how we'll move forward. Just a couple other things to mention to you. This is the year of the bee at Pioneer Springs. If you're not aware, ours has a heavy emphasis on nature education integration. And so this year, we're devoting a good deal of time to the study of the bee and the importance of the bee in our environment. It actually started last year with Earth Week, when our students built bee boxes in anticipation of our own apiary, which will be installed this year during Earth Week. This is part of a larger plan to expand on that hands-on learning for nature integration. 2 years ago, we installed our own orchard. Of course, we have the bees coming in this year. 2 years from now, we have a plan for Angora goats on campus. 2 years after that, aquaponics. All of this is a larger plan for instructional study that I'll show you in just a minute. Something else I want to put out is the architectural blueprint for our middle school, for which we'll break ground this year. Now, I kind of want to digress just a moment and speak to, I'm sorry, is it Alexis? Miss Alexis's comments when she was talking about our fiscal position. One thing she pointed out to you is while we're compliant, and we're in good fiscal health, we don't have a lot of cash flow. Someone might reframe that and say, we are responsible stewards of the resources given to us, and we don't sit on them. We use them. We run pretty lean, but we run responsibly. One thing you need to know is our campus is made up of almost 9 acres with 5 separate buildings. Of those 5 buildings, we own 4 of those buildings, so our assets are greater than $2 million. After we build this building this year, our 5-year budget projections suggest that we'll be $200,000 to the good the following year and every year thereafter. So one thing I'm fond of saying to my colleagues and also to our board is we plan our work and then we work our plan. It's a way to ensure that what we're doing is not arbitrary or reactionary, and certainly it creates accountability for us as a staff. Outside of our charter and our school improvement plan, the primary document that we work is this. This is our academic plan. We always stay 3 years in front of where we're supposed to be. Now, what you're seeing is just a sliver of the overall plan, but you can see we take into account every aspect of operations and instruction as we plan. It's all based on enrollment. That's what the first column is, and then what we'll need in response to that. How many new folks? What kind of curriculum materials? What kind of new assessments will we be looking at? Where will we go on field trips that are meaningful for our students? If you saw this expanded plan, you would see at the bottom there are tabs for each grade level, because just the way we plan for the overarching picture of the school, we plan the scope and sequence for every grade level every year. In fact, we've already planned out through 2024, which is when we'll graduate our first students from Pioneer Springs. What you're looking at is essentially a magnet-based pathway program, and that'll be the foundation for our high school. You see there are 6 possible pathways that students can pursue to get a degree. What's interesting about our plans is that when students graduate, they'll not only meet the requirements for a diploma in North Carolina, but they'll also have a marketable skill. We think it's a win-win plan. Having said that, though, it's obvious I'm biased, right? I'm a paid mercenary for Pioneer Springs. I'm a big fan. In fact, I drive 90 minutes one way every day to go work there. That's how invested I am. But this isn't about that. We're here because of that comparison with Charlotte-Meck. And so it's important that you hear from the folks who live in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg district, but who choose to work or to send their kids to Pioneer Springs.
Got no volume.
It never works. Yeah, it never works.
Can you help me with volume? How do I get the volume up on here?
We'll pause the.
While they're trying to get that to work, are there any questions that we can answer in between?
Maybe while they're working on that, I can ask you a question. Would that be okay?
Yes, sir.
That's what she just asked for.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out the video. It's just really interesting when I look at your growth indices to be state use correct English. You've got like in 14-15 it was -3, then it was 1.5 in 15-16, and then it was 3.3 in 16-17. So you went not met, met, exceeded, and then you went back to not met with a -5.2. And I mean, usually we see a little more consistency in growth scores. And so I was wondering, you know, have y'all looked into the data and tried to figure out why is it that your growth scores are kind of like a roller coaster? They started down here and then they went way up and then they went way back down again, and you know what the reasoning is behind that.
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and I think I referred to this in my comments, although I know I was talking a mile a minute because I'm a Yankee. So boom, boom, boom. Having said that, we really focused on closing the gap. When I joined the school in 15-16, we did a data analysis, and I would say, generally speaking, both with reading and math, our students were below the grade level. We focused on closing that gap, and we aggressively closed that gap with reading. We were better equipped to do so over those years, although we saw good growth with math too. The reality is, and you all know this from working with school data, is when you're a D school, when you're in the 40s to begin with, you have a lot of room for growth, and growth is easier to make up than proficiency, although that's the ultimate goal. What we saw happen this past year is that even though our MAP data indicated that we should expect 60 to 65% of our students would be proficient on the math exam, what we saw in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade is that math scores went back dramatically, enough to counterbalance the fact that our reading scores we still met that growth target. And that's sort of a data anomaly. I know it was the case, the folks at a sister school over in Davidson, a well-known charter school, they went backwards a letter grade simply because of the performance of one grade level. So sometimes it's that outlier that pulls you down. Certainly our academic goal for this year is to continue to close that gap on math and to hit our proficiency a little more strongly.
I mean, it was just odd to me to have basically an 8-point swing in your growth index over a year.
It was odd to us too, and I think after that initial testing session, 4 of us independently, without the knowledge that the other one had called our regional accountability coordinator, because that state data was so drastically different from our benchmarking data. We couldn't make heads or tails of it.
But you're not the only one. MAP didn't correlate very well.
No, it
this
doesn't.
year.
No.
I'm sorry, will you say that again?
MAP did not correlate well at all this year.
No, ma'am, we don't think so. And one of the things I did was call other area charter schools, many of whom have abandoned MAP. We've heard about the NC check-in, which we've opted to do this year. I've heard about iReady.
That's a strategy that we've gone to also at my school.
Yeah, many of the schools have moved to iReady as a better benchmark. So when I said that we took the approach that everything was wrong, we also assumed that about the data we had been collecting.
All right, we only got a couple minutes left, or really no minutes left.
This is 1 minute.
Go watch the video.
Saw a need for an opportunity to bring a unique setting, a community-based school to the greater Charlotte area. And the school here, it focuses a lot on nature-based, project-based learning, using the basic school philosophy, focused on holistic learning, not just academics, social, emotional, physical.
My favorite thing about this school is that the kids don't want to go home. You know, this is a really great environment. The kids are happy. They're getting their academics. They're getting their basic life skills. They're getting vitamin D. They're getting their nature learning.
We're just all embracing individuals and people that are accountable who have kids as number one in our objective.
We love the fact that in our family and with Catherine here at Pioneer Springs, she sees the world in a very different way than our generation did. That's exciting.
I knew when my kids were going to school that I was going to want to be involved with them at school and involved with their education and their experience at school. I wanted to get to know the other kids and the teachers, and so through me, I've been able to do that.
We've had the opportunity to talk to other parents about this school.
I think a great message to give them is come out and experience it. Just plan a day that maybe the faculty can walk you through the campus and really take a look at what's here.
When you drive by Pioneer Springs, what you're immediately struck by is the unique setting. So many kids outside and in nature all the time that you may not recognize. This is a staff of highly trained professionals. Our teachers are licensed, they're highly credentialed, they know their curriculum inside and out. They're incredibly talented, they work well as teams. Those things are fundamentally essential to student performance. And I think that's also a big contributing factor. We're staffed by folks who know what they're doing and who are passionate about success in this school. And when you marry that with this unique environment, I don't see how you can go wrong.
Come, check it out, talk to the parents, talk to the teachers. You will not find a more loving group of teachers.
I think it's wonderful that the kids get to experience the outdoors here at Pioneer Springs, and I'm happy to be a part of it. It's a great school. I love this school.
I will be a kid 10 years old, just as exactly where I would want to be.
All right. All right, well, we're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is Reaching All Minds Academy. I'm going to be recusing myself, handing it over to Chair Walker.
Thank you.
I got the time. I can do that without a conflict of interest.
Good afternoon. So to introduce who's here with us, we have Annie McCoy, our board chair, Mr. McCoy, our principal. I'm Angela Cheek, Director of Student Services, and then we have Ms. Natasha Wayne, Director of Operations and Community Engagement.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just thank you for the opportunity to be here and share a little bit about Reaching All Minds Academy, or RAMA for short. We were established in 2014 as a STEM academy. Right now we're grades K through 7. You have our mission, but we won't go through reading that. And here's our breakdown. We started K3, and we've grown each year, adding a grade. So we started at 125, then we moved to 161, then 197 students, 253 students last year. And this year we're at a little over 300, but we just left it at 300 for simplicity's sake. So we have 2 classes per grade. And our 7th grade was our initial founding 3rd grade class, which started as 1 class. And once they go through 8th grade, we'll have 2 classes per grade. Our data, we're 93% economically disadvantaged. The discrepancy that may show on the state reports is that initially we were using the parent-based reports, which show the accurate indication. Last year, I won't say it was misinformation, but we got some bad advice to go to the community, the certification report, and what we found is that we have 6% of our students who are Latino, and because they do not all participate in public services, they were not in the system to show that they should have gotten free or reduced lunch. So because we have such a high percentage of students that are undocumented, it threw our numbers off, and so this year we've gone back to using our parent reports, which more accurately reflects our free and reduced lunch population. 40% African American. We have 10% of our population are EC students, 34% participating in the ESL program, and over 60% of our students utilize school-based transportation, which we provide for any student within Durham County. We have some students outside of Durham County, and if they meet us at the county line, we'll make sure they get to school as well. 50% of our teachers are licensed, with 60% of the staff having 10+ years of experience. 14% of the staff is Latino, which we're working to grow based on our student population. 75% African American staff, 5% Caucasian, 6% other.
So under our perception data, something that we're very protective of is ensuring that we keep our class sizes small. So this allows us to create an environment where we can have more personalized, individualized instruction, and we have a teacher and teacher assistant in each classroom. Our facilities and our digital resources are aligned with our academic goals. So this is a continual process for us as teachers approach us with things that they need curriculum-wise or to help with instruction, and things that we ask or mandate as the administrative team, we ensure that we allow and make sure that the resources are available so that those things can happen. Additionally, professional development, we have a big push in that area. Everyone has a personalized workshop schedule. So we offer school-wide trainings, then we do administrative level PLCs on a weekly basis, and then we have where teachers seek out their own professional development or they inquire about things that they want to learn more about, and we provide those opportunities for them as well. This summer, we had our first school-led conference. We titled it our Stimulation Conference so that it gave us more insight into providing strategies and resources to engage our learners in the areas of STEM, and we did that in partnership with NASA. Now, with our student achievement data, so our figures are shown there. And we want to be very systematic and vigilant about not plateauing out at a D and moving our proficiencies. We are doing okay with growth because we've exceeded growth in 3 years and we've met growth with 1. But we want to continue to move our students along so that we can have an increased percentage of proficient students. And so some of the ways that we're working to that end is we were able to identify where our weakest grades were on EVOS, and we targeted our 3rd and 4th grade classes and those teachers. And we've implemented the strategies of looping, and then we pulled in a community partnership that my colleague Ms. Wayne will speak to in a few minutes. Additionally, we also utilized our data from EVOS, identifying our stronger teachers and having them serve as lead teachers to assist with our curriculum sharing and helping to ensure that other teachers understand the standards and some of the best ways to communicate that information. And those are the years that shows where we exceeded and met growth. Some of the instructional best practices that are norms for our classrooms is small group instruction so that we can allow spaces during the instructional day where teachers can meet and provide catch up on the instructional deficits and gaps that our students have. Close reading strategy. This is a big part of our literacy program because it allows us and helps us to chain and shape our students' behavior around reading. Goal setting and data tracking. We're being intentional on this point to make sure that the adults in the building are not the only ones who's talking about the data, but the students understand it as well. And it's gone as far as them understanding and knowing what standards they're working on for the day or for the week and whether they are a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in that week so they can speak to the data almost as well as we can. It helps them with their goal setting and taking ownership over their learning. Common assessments, we utilize Easy CBM and the NC check-ins and weekly conferencing so that when we come together to speak during our weekly either PLCs or curriculum meetings, we can speak intelligently to what we worked on for the week and how the kids are doing specifically. And the use of graphic organizers, which allows the thinking to be visible for both the student and the teacher.
So one of the key roles that I have had the pleasure of participating in with RAM is actually bringing in some community partnerships to help enhance the growth of our students, particularly a community partnership with RTI International Corporation in the Triangle Park. Over the last few months, we've had students partner one-on-one with RTI volunteers for 1 hour of intensive instruction and reading each week. We have had 70 fourth graders participate in this over a duration of February to October, providing 464 one-on-one hours with these students to help increase their reading scores. Additionally, we have a partnership with Links that's provided opportunities for our 4th and 6th grade students to experience live musical and theater arts programs in addition to receiving the STEM curriculum in the classroom. Furthermore, in order to ensure that our students are meeting their academic goals, we are working with a community partnership through the Ellis Grant, in which allows our students to receive additional 2 hours of intensive instruction every day, Monday through Thursday. 267 students are participating in that program, K through 7. So it does allow for additional one-on-one help with our students to ensure that they are meeting their reading goals. So as we are looking at next steps for our school, we've been looking at a couple of key questions. What grades are showing positive score trends? What standards are showing more proficiencies and subscores? Are licensed or highly qualified teachers showing more proficiencies? What factors are contributing to these proficiencies, and what factors are attributing to the lack of proficiencies, including attendance, discipline, and practices within the classroom? So our action steps are curriculum sharing mentors, which we're already starting to implement with some of the partnerships that we have outside the classroom. Strategy sharing and data tracking within our students. Assistance with professional development plans and licensure support. We started that intensively over the summer, and we'll continue a year-long professional development calendar so that our teachers are not just learning about ways to enhance the classroom experience, but also to raise their level of proficiencies across the board in professionalism and all the soft skills that they need to teach our students. And then school improvement team meetings and surveys, monthly data reports, truancy monitoring, and home visits to ensure that our students are receiving the supports at home that help to reinforce the supports they're receiving in the classroom. Additionally, we're working to participate in weekly curriculum PLCs to analyze weekly standards of data and progress monitor so that we know exactly where our students are at any given point throughout the year. Provide additional supports for teachers with high referral rates, and then target students with frequent absences and referrals through some of those tactics that we talked about with the home visits and parent conferencing. Do you have any questions for us?
Can you, how involved is the board in your school as far as, kind of what's the composition of the board? How many board members do you have? How does the board interact with the school?
I'll let our board chair answer that for us.
Good afternoon. I'm Annie McCord, the board chair. We have about 9 board members, and our board is very active in policy procedures and making sure the school meets all the needs that need to be met.
Okay, I mean, proficiency is the issue here. As the board, I guess what I'm trying to kind of get at here is how involved is the board in helping craft this school improvement plan, as far as trying to, because the growth is good, but there's still the proficiency lag. I mean, we're talking around 18% below Durham last year in proficiency, but a very good growth score, and so that's where I'm just kind of trying to find out where's the what is it that's slowing down from y'all getting to the proficiency level that you need to be at.
I would say, based with Durham and as with the larger cities, with the split of economics, if you look at the economic lay of the county and you track proficiencies with the schools that are in the areas similar to ours, it'd be very comparable, or we even surpassing some of those areas. With Durham being one of the largest in the state, on the southern side of the county, I mean, when you follow economics, the test scores are higher as far as the school grades. On the poor side of the counties, we're closer to that proficiencies. But we're working to move to those areas of getting to that level C. Some of the steps that we are taking are looking at some of the schools in the areas that are, or throughout the state with similar demographics that are meeting those proficiencies and modeling ourselves after some of their practices. So through some of the recommendations of advisors and through the Office of Charters, we're looking to set up meetings with Henderson Collegiate, Sugar Creek Charter, some of the schools that are doing well in the areas with similar populations, and how we can model some of those successes.
And that really is where you've got some room for growth in your proficiency, because you were, your overall last year was 29.8 in grade level proficiency, but then when you look at economically disadvantaged, you're still lagging about 10% behind the county at 25.6 with economically disadvantaged. So that may be where you have the room to grow is in that. And I know your economically disadvantaged numbers are off a little bit because you used direct cert last year, and now you're back to the parent thing. So
right, yeah, it's quite. I mean, we're at 93%, so I'd say it's a huge discrepancy in that figure. So But those are pieces that we're looking at.
And it's hard to know how that was gonna impact proficiency. I mean, you just had no idea. So, as far as the ED numbers go. Anybody else have questions?
I will say, just to speak to the things that are taking place in the school, in 2 weeks, we're taking our 7th graders to Taiwan on a reduced cost field trip. So our entire 7th graders and some of our 6th graders are going on a cultural exchange trip with another school that we've connected with in Taiwan. So they'll be spending 2 days at a school speaking with the other students, and we'll spend the other 6 days traveling the country. And so that's also a piece that we're looking to expand into in our international travel. As well as as a part of the conference, our summer conference, we have been trying to address some of the economic factors that affect our community. So we've had our staff begin training in debt and wealth management. So we had Farad Ali, who he works as a financial manager in Durham, and he was a candidate for mayor of Durham, and he came in and was one of the speakers for our staff. And in February, our 6th and 7th grade will be attending a Dave Ramsey conference to learn more about wealth management and how they can break some of the generational barriers that exist within their family. So,
did y'all get a grant or something to help fund? Because that's you saw some things that sounded kind of expensive. That was just
yes. So we have the students paying for a portion of it, because what we found is when we give everything to them, it's not appreciated as much. So we still have them work. They do community service. They work at the school. They clean the buses. They clean the classrooms. But we also have some great community partners who believe in the students in the school, because we are one of the few positive institutions in our area of Durham, as far as Far East. And so we have a few churches and communities and business partnerships that have made some significant economic contributions to our school. And so we try to use that to give them different opportunities, such as the Taiwan trip. And we've had a smaller group of students. We've gone to Washington, D.C., Florida. So we try to get them to see more than just Durham, and to more than just what's taking place in the classroom, as well as the after-school program. It's completely free to the students. And previously, before the Ellis Grant, we had a 21st Century Learning after-school program, which was also free to the students. So those are outside sources that we bring in to assist with the students. But we've also just worked very hard to keep our expenses low. I mean, we visit the Duke Surplus, anything we can get for free that we don't have to pay for, we use it to our advantage. And I think with our last audit, we were over $1 million that we have in the banking reserves.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One quick question. What is your ESL population?
34%.
34%.
But 60% of our students are Hispanic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next is Wayne Prep. Last one. Slightly over.
Hello, I'm Sharon Thompson. I'm the chairman of the board for Wayne Prep.
Good evening. I'm John Twitty, the managing director.
And at the end of each section, I had put these out. I hope these got passed out to you. I had sent an invitation earlier for y'all to come to our ribbon cutting for our new middle school, and this is it. Unfortunately, the hurricane came that day, so we had to postpone it, and several of you wrote and said that you wouldn't be able to make it to the next date that we had selected. So we missed you, but it was really nice to have the ribbon cut on our building to start with. I'd also want to thank Mr. Machado and the charter school staff. They have been phenomenal over these past 4 years that I've served as chair. Our initial chairman, Dr. Ken Benton, resigned after the first year, and I kind of fell into the position, I suppose. But anyway, they've been just great. My background is business, it's not in education, and so we certainly had to take advantage of all resources and trainings and things that were brought before us during this time so that we could learn and know what we should be doing with our school. So we are a K-8 charter. We started out K-4, And we have added a grade each year. So this past year we added K-8, and then of course we moved into our middle school building. In front of that building, we have 3 learning cottages that we call them, which are double wides, but they've got a beautiful porch on the front and a deck on the back. And so that's been our temporary education for elementary school. Behind the middle school building, if you look on the back sheet that I presented with you, it's got our facilities plan. So those 3 boxes at the front of those learning cottages, the middle school is behind that, which is the picture that you've got on the front. And then directly behind that will be the elementary school that'll be built. And then at the very front of the property, we're very excited that we'll be opening our preschool program this year for 3- and 4-year-olds, which I'll touch on in just a minute. So our first year was really a tough year. We had a lot of bad players that year. We were, as y'all know, some of you know, we were actually, for some unknown reason that we still have not understood, were put together with Thunderbird the same time that they came up. And the same vendor that started us started that school. Now, we were not an EMO. We just had a vendor that wanted to start the school and, again, was a bad player and just really kind of wreaked havoc with us that first year. Not only did we have a lot of issues with them, we also ended up being put in bonds that were sold with Thunderbird. And so as we continue to grow and do well, we tried to bifurcate the bonds, and we were not able to do that. It's been several months, and we have finally done that. And so we're excited to say that we're on our own. We have no connection whatsoever with Thunderbird, even though they're not in existence anymore. But it's just us now. And we have a brand new landlord, Charter School Capital, that's working with us. It's provided great support. They're the ones that funded the new building. We were finally able to get that built. We were actually 3 years behind in getting the building built from what we had projected where we would be. So we're in a good stead that way, and that's why our audit is late this year. I did have the auditor send to Ms. Strauss's office today a letter stating that the audit should be completed any day now. We do have no findings, there's no issues, and we've not had any findings or any issues with our audit since that very first year. The first year we did have a $67,000 deficit, and we had $362,000 in loans. I came on as chairman after that first year. I was able to negotiate the loans, and our surplus for the ending of the second year was $253,000. We've continued to go up each year, and we should have a $795,000 surplus this year in the audit that you should receive soon. And my goal...
what is your enrollment this year?
We have just at 700.
700, thank you.
And so one of the things that with a business background, I wanted to make sure that we had either the 8% reserve that the state suggests that you have, or either a month's worth of money to be able to cover us in case, for whatever reason, the state didn't approve the budget. We needed to be able to meet payroll and our expenses and all of that. So the rest of the money that we have that we've accumulated this past year was with the new building. Obviously, we had to buy furniture, put all those extra things into it that aren't covered in the construction. So we wanted to put that money aside to be able to do that. Operations, I've told you about our plans coming forward and what we'll be doing with it. Our board is very involved. I'm sorry they're not here with us today. Ms. Amanda Wells is a trial attorney. She's actually in court. Mr. Tommy King is a business owner, and he's opening another business in Charlotte, so he had to be over there. It's a brand new business. But I think the one that speaks the most volume for our school is that we have Ms. Lou Rose, who is a Wayne County Public School employee. She works in the central office. She travels to all of the schools throughout the county. She's on our board, and her 2 boys have been at our school since we've opened. So I think that speaks a lot for us to have her kids there and for her to be serving on our board. We just had one of our founding board members step down. He had been with us since 2013, and he did a wonderful job for us. So we're looking for board members. Our board is set at 5 to grow to 9. So we're looking to fill those other positions as we move along. They meet twice a month. We meet the second Monday of each month. We go over finances and we go over operations at that meeting. And then the last Monday of the month, we go over academics and we go over committees. You know, when I took over, it was a lot for me to absorb, not having that education background and you know, trying to do all of that in one meeting. So we have split that up in the past 4 years. That's how we've operated. The June of each year, we meet for a weekend retreat. So we spend 2 days together then, planning for the next year, looking at our strategic planning, where we want to go, how we are coming along with our academic plan, which I'm going to be excited to let Mr. Twitty share with you in just a moment. The other thing that we were able to do last year, and now with the onset of having a gym finally, last year we started our sports program, and it's grown tremendously this year. And we already have some conference placements, so we're very excited about that. Our students are excited about having sports. And of course, as you know, that's a big draw, at least on the eastern side of the state, you know, to have the sports there. I'm sure it is all the way across, but that's a big thing that the parents are looking for with their children, and they want to have that available to them. As I shared with you, we're going to be opening our preschool in January. That will be a fee-based program, but we hope in the future to be able to expand it to be the NC Pre-K 4 program once we're able to build the elementary school and have some more classroom space to be able to add that in. But we have several parents that have asked that we provide that for them, so we are doing that as well. We have a before and after school program that we offer. It is fee-based also. And on Mondays, one of the things I think that attracted maybe the board that approved the application to begin with is that we dismiss at 1 o'clock, and we have enrichment classes from 1:30 to 3:30 for our students. Again, they're fee-based programs, and all of these monies that we're able to get from these programs, we're putting right back into the school, whether it be for computers or learning labs or, you know, those things that give us the discretionary funds to be able to use that. So we've had an interesting 5 years. I've learned a lot. It's been a great privilege to be able to serve. I have no grandchildren, no children at the school. I just felt like this was something that was sorely needed in Wayne County, and we appreciate the fact that y'all worked with us and that we're moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Twitty and let him share the great news with our academics. But before he does that, though, you noticed, I know y'all looked at this last month, the second year we had that huge drop. And the reason was we are in a Air Force community, and we had a whole grade that the families PCS'd out that year, the second graders that would have gone up to the third graders that we had. And so we think part of it was, you know, when you lose that many students that you've had under you for 3 years and you bring in a whole nother group of students, I think we brought in about 200 that year, it makes a big difference in your numbers. So, Mr. Twitty.
Thank you very much. A little bit about myself. I'm a retired military person for 26 years of Air Force active duty, and I spent 20 years as a administrator in the public school system. Charter is brand new to me. I love it. This is my second year as the managing director, and I'm learning something new every day. Our mission statement is to create a legacy of leadership and learning that embraces each child, and we do that one child at a time. We kind of tie that into the Leader in Me program, which we have Sean Covey, the 7 Habits of a Highly Effective People. So if you come to my school, you'll see a lot of kids put in positions of leadership where they're learning to take charge of what they do and take charge of their learning. So it's student-led, almost everything, student-led parent conferences, student-led assemblies, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we believe that every child or every scholar has strengths that can be enriched, and that's what we do. We put them out front in order for them to be successful. Our goals for this forthcoming year is to use the data from MAP to increase our scores in our grade level. Math, of course, is our weakest subject. So we want to focus on that. We want to maintain financial compliance, and we want to use our data to drive our instructional methods. As you can see, our school performance the first year, I think that is like a 4.12. The next year was an embarrassing 9.12. And then we exceeded growth with a 5.25 average, and this year we met growth. One of the things that I found out when I took over, there was a lot of direct instruction, and there are a lot of gaps in the direct instruction program. So we kind of supplemented. We use MobiMax. Now we're using iReady. We're using iExcel to supplement those particular programs to increase our student achievement. Moving forward, we're going to continue to use the map in WEA in our home base, using the NC check-ins this year so we can disaggregate the data. Also using iReady. Inquiry-based learning teaching approaches, and again, we're going to use continue to use data to drive the instruction. At the end, we want to make sure that we provide and encourage high-quality, relevant professional development for our staff so they are enabled to grow. So, are there any questions?
I mean, you're another one of those kind of borderline, one bad year, three
Yes.
out of the automatic 10-year thing. So
I understand.
I mean, your building's beautiful, by the way.
Well, thank you, sir.
County is, desperately needs charter schools.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy being a part of the charter community. Again, I've learned a lot. I try to attend every institute that is given out. I've learned, also met a lot of great people who run charters. So again, I want to emulate the successful schools and move forward. I'm a results-oriented person, a man of very few words, but I like to get things done.
Where exactly are you located if I'm coming up 70?
We're in Goldsboro, so are you aware of Kinston?
Yes,
70?
I go from Kinston 70 into Goldsboro.
Yes.
So where?
We're on Tommy's Road.
So if you come off of 70, if you're coming up, like you're gonna go into Goldsboro, you can exit off Highway 117 and then cross over at the stoplight and it'll take you out in the country.
So it's out that way?
Yes, ma'am.
We're about a half a mile, or we're about a mile from Tommy's Road Elementary. We're around the corner from a Christian school, and then we're just a couple of more miles away from a private school that's in town. So.
But feel free to stop in.
Absolutely, we'd love to have it come.
Well, I was planning to come to the
Ribbon cutting?
to the original open house, but I'm in Pamlico, so I was affected by the storm too.
And we know we had, like I said, that one bad year, and we hope that you'll consider a 10-year renewal. We've worked really hard to, as a board, as an administration, we've again worked really hard with the Office of Charter School staff to try and be the best that we can and to overcome all those things we had to overcome to be where we are.
And how long have you been the headmaster?
I have, how long is Mr.
This is my second year.
Second year.
Yes, ma'am.
But he taught
Sixth grade English, yes. I was after retirement, so I just figured I would do something constructive.
If you would remind me of the tie to Thunderbird again, did you share an EMO? Was that it?
That was the one where that guy showed up, they had the two identical, applications, and then when we started asking questions, it found the same person had helped them write them, but neither of them knew that the other person, that they were using the same app. That was the first year Thunderbird came through.
We had
Then they issued those
we had
visa
a
boards.
vendor like Acadia was the one that wanted to start our school, and another gentleman that was in construction in our town. And so when they put Thunderbird together, when they finally got the application through at that time, I guess the same person had written that. I came on the board late. I was like December of 2013 before school started, and I came on to do marketing, business, that sort of thing for us. But we got tied into them financially because the landowner that had us at that time sold bonds, and they sold us together. And so when Thunderbird started tanking, we're trying to pull out and get away from them. The investors wouldn't let us. So I spent months in negotiating, trying to bifurcate the bonds. And then finally, we got that resolved the end of this year. And as I said, we have a new landowner as of July, which again is trying to get all of that done and make sure everything was okay. And financially where we were going to be is why our audit is late, and we apologize. We worked very hard to make sure we meet all of our deadlines. I think Mr. Machado can tell you we've worked hard to do that.
Thank you. Cheryl, was that the fellow that kept running his mouth and wouldn't let any of his board members speak?
No, this guy, when we got the apps, they were identical. And then, so when the people came in and we asked questions about why are you using the same app, but you're not related to each other, we found out that neither of those two schools knew that the other one had the same application.
So they had paid someone to create their applications.
Exactly.
Which
And
is what
and
we
they
were
were
trying to-
identical.
Yeah.
Which I think it may have been the vendor. But
Well-
I don't know that for sure.
I just remember trying to track those bonds back, and I said, I'm gonna go back with the companies that were issuing the bonds till I found a living person. And I had to go back through like 8 or 9 LLCs till I finally found a guy, and he lived in Canada. And that was, it was just the weirdest financial thing, using these Visa bonds that were basically issued mostly to Chinese businesses. And it was just a really complex financial scheme, and I bet you could not be happier to be out of it.
Oh, you have no idea. One of the first things I did, again, I'm a business owner, but I know that I don't know a lot. And so one of the first things we did was hire a contract attorney, because the contracts that we had been put in with the vendor, as well as some of these other contracts, had never been reviewed by an attorney. So we hired a contract attorney, and it took us months, because it took me months to go track down stuff because I wasn't there originally. So I dug through emails, he was reading stuff, and it probably took us about 9 months to get the whole web untangled and figure out what was going on.
Or you could
and
even start correcting it.
Ma'am?
Or you could even start correcting it.
Absolutely. But we've done that. So again, I think you'll see with our audits, and as I said, this year's audit's going to look even better. We've worked very hard to be very fiscally responsible. We've worked really hard to get us where we needed to be academically. I remember the first year, again, being new to the whole school scene, and charter school being a whole nother animal. But having children that came into us that first year that were in the 4th grade that were reading on a 1st grade level, and just knowing, where we needed to go with them, and understanding that today was going to come, 5 years up the road, and I'm looking at them and saying, how are we going to achieve this? And so I'm very proud of the fact that they did it. The scholars did it, the staff did it. It's just a great testament to them and all of the work that they put in.
Sir, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's right. Happy Veterans Day.
And you're continuing to serve.
Yes, I am.
Everybody knows him. It was really funny when we had some of the open houses, right after he took over as managing director. Even when he was there as a teacher, if parents walked in that had had him previously, they went, oh, if Mr. Tweedy's here, we're coming. And so he's been a wonderful asset to have at the school, not only as a individual and the service and leadership that he provides, but also as an administrator.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We've come to the end of our agenda for today. We've done
We adjourn to
the
tomorrow.
SBA updates already. All in favor of adjournment?
Hallelujah.
All right, let's go home.
How about the nays?
Are you going to say nay?